She won't tell you what turns her on. Not directly, not clearly, not in words you can screenshot and analyze later. But there is something you can say that hits deeper than compliments, deeper than flirting, deeper than, "You look beautiful tonight." Because attraction isn't triggered by praise, it's triggered by how you make her feel about herself when she's around you. Welcome back to Female Code Unlocked, where we decode the emotions she'll never explain. If you're ready to understand women on a level most men never reach, hit subscribe. Because what you're about to hear will change the way you speak to her forever. Listen carefully. What turns her on isn't a dirty line. It's not a rehearsed pickup phrase. It's this: "I like who you become when you're with me." Not said arrogantly, not said jokingly, said slowly, calmly, like you've observed something she hasn't. Because here's what most men don't understand. Women don't crave being desired. They crave being seen. When you tell her she's sexy, she hears it every week. When you tell her she's hot, she's heard it since she was 16. When you tell her she's beautiful, she smiles. But it doesn't move her. But when you tell her, you notice how her voice softens around you, how her sarcasm fades, how she laughs differently, how she lets her guard drop. Now you're not complimenting her body. You're acknowledging her emotional shift. And that's intimate. Imagine this. You're sitting across from her. She's playful, teasing, a little guarded. Then there's a moment, a subtle pause, where her energy changes. Her eyes soften. Her posture relaxes. She's not performing anymore. That's the moment you lean in slightly and say, "You're different when it's just us. I like that version of you." Watch what happens. Her pupils dilate. Her breathing slows. She doesn't respond immediately, because you just did something powerful. You made her feel emotionally exposed, without attacking her. Here's the dark psychology behind it. Women are constantly adapting. With friends, she's loud. At work, she's sharp. With strangers, she's cautious. With men she doesn't trust, she's armored. But with a man who feels safe and strong, she becomes softer. When you point that out, you're not chasing her. You're validating the shift she subconsciously chose to make for you. And that creates polarity. You see, attraction grows in contrast. Strength meeting softness, calm meeting emotion, certainty meeting vulnerability. When you calmly observe her transformation around you, you position yourself as the emotional anchor in the room. Not needy, not impressed, just aware. And awareness is seductive. Most men try to impress her. But the man who turns her on, he notices her. He says things like, "I can tell you think a lot more than you say." Or, "You act tough, but you're actually very sensitive." Not as an accusation, as a discovery. Because when a woman feels understood without having to explain herself, her defenses melt. And here's the part nobody tells you. When she feels emotionally safe and slightly exposed at the same time, that tension becomes attraction. It's the same reason intense eye contact feels electric. It's the same reason silence between two people can feel louder than words. You're creating emotional intimacy without asking for it, and intimacy is what turns her on. Not explicit words, not rehearsed dominance, but the quiet confidence of a man who sees beneath the surface and isn't intimidated by what he finds. So next time you're with her, don't rush to compliment her dress. Notice her energy. Notice the way she mirrors your tone. Notice the way she relaxes when you lead the conversation calmly. And then say it. "I like who you are when you're with me." Not because you're claiming her, but because you're acknowledging the connection. And connection is the real trigger. Real. Now, understand this. The first line opened the door. But part two is where you deepen the tension. Because attraction isn't just about being seen. It's about being understood. In a way that feels slightly dangerous. You've already told her you notice who she becomes around you. Now you go one layer deeper. You say this: "You don't let many people see this side of you, do you?" Pause. Let the silence stretch. Don't smile nervously. Don't rush to fill it. Hold eye contact. Because this line does something subtle but powerful. It implies exclusivity. It suggests that what's happening between you isn't casual, it's rare, and women are emotionally wired to value what feels rare. Think about it. She spends her life managing perception, being careful, being composed, being socially intelligent. But when you calmly acknowledge that she's showing you something she doesn't show others, you create intimacy without touching her. You're not asking for vulnerability. You're recognizing it. And recognition is intoxicating. Picture this. She's telling you a story from her past. There's a flicker in her expression, a softness, maybe even a hint of insecurity. Most men would interrupt, offer advice, try to fix it. You don't. You let her finish, then you lean back slightly and say, "It's interesting. You're strong, but there's a softness in you that most people probably miss." Now watch her reaction. She won't respond immediately, because what you just did wasn't flattery. It was emotional mirroring, and mirroring creates connection faster than compliments ever could. Here's the psychological layer most men never understand. A woman is turned on when she feels emotionally safe and emotionally revealed at the same time. Too safe, and you become boring. Too revealing without safety, and she shuts down. But when you balance both, calm presence with perceptive insight, you create tension. And tension is the birthplace of desire. This isn't about manipulation. It's about awareness. It's about being the man who listens between the words, who notices when her tone changes, who sees when she tests you with sarcasm, but softens when you don't react. And then you say something that shifts the dynamic completely. You say, "You don't have to pretend around me." Soft, certain, final. That line hits differently, because every woman pretends. Pretends she's less emotional than she is. Pretends she's less sensitive. Pretends she doesn't care as much as she does. When you give her permission to drop that mask, without demanding it, you become emotionally magnetic. And here's the part most men get wrong. They think turning a woman on means escalating physically, but real desire starts in her mind. It starts when she feels understood, when she feels chosen, not for her body, but for the hidden layers she rarely shows. And once that mental switch flips, physical attraction follows naturally, because she doesn't just want to be touched, she wants to be felt. So the next time you're with her, slow down. Lower your voice slightly. Maintain steady eye contact, and say something that reflects who she is beneath the performance. Because the moment she feels truly seen, that's the moment she leans closer. That's the moment her body language changes. That's the moment the air between you thickens. And she won't even realize why. Now we go even deeper. Because by now, she feels seen. She feels understood. She feels safe enough to soften. But part 3 is where desire ignites. This is where you shift from understanding her to challenging her. Not aggressively, not arrogantly, but subtly. You look at her, calm, grounded, and you say, "You're trying not to like this connection too much." And then you stop talking. Let that sit. Because here's what just happened. You verbalized the internal conflict she hasn't admitted. Women don't fall for men the way men fall for women. They resist first. They analyze. They question. They protect themselves. So when you gently call out that tension, without sounding insecure, you create emotional friction. And friction creates heat. Imagine you're walking together at night. The conversation has slowed. There's a rhythm between you now. A quiet pull. She bumps your shoulder playfully. You smile slightly and say, "You act casual. But you feel this too." Not as a question, as a calm observation. That certainty is what shifts everything. Because attraction thrives in polarity. If she's unsure, you're steady. If she's playful, you're grounded. If she's teasing, you're amused, not reactive. Most men seek reassurance. But the man who turns her on, he assumes connection. He doesn't chase confirmation. And when you say, "You feel this too," you remove the doubt she's hiding behind. Now her mind starts racing. How does he know? Is it that obvious? Why does that make my heart beat faster? This is dark psychology at its cleanest form. Not manipulation, but controlled awareness. You're naming the energy in the room before she does. And women are deeply drawn to men who can lead emotionally. But here's the key. You must say it without neediness, without desperation, almost like you're stating the weather. Calm, unbothered, certain, because certainty is seductive. Picture this scenario. She says, "We shouldn't move too fast." Instead of convincing her otherwise, you lean back and say, "I know. That's why this tension is interesting." Now you've reframed hesitation into chemistry. You didn't argue. You didn't push. You acknowledged and elevated. And suddenly she's not thinking about slowing down. She's thinking about why being around you feels intense. Here's what's really happening underneath. When you confidently verbalize the attraction without asking permission, you create emotional leadership. And women respond to leadership. Not dominance in a loud, controlling way, but emotional steadiness. A man who can say what's real without flinching. And when she feels that grounded presence, her body relaxes. Her eye contact lingers longer. Her voice drops slightly. Because she feels guided, not pressured. And guidance, when done right, feels intoxicating. So remember this. Understanding her builds comfort. Recognizing her vulnerability builds intimacy. But confidently acknowledging the connection? That builds desire. And desire isn't loud, it's quiet. It's in the pause after your words. It's in the way she looks away for a second because the tension got too real. It's in the way she suddenly stands a little closer than before. You don't need explicit lines. You need emotional precision. Because what truly turns her on is a man who isn't afraid of the connection forming. A man who sees it, names it, and holds it. And now, the final layer. Because if you followed everything so far, she feels the connection. She feels seen. She feels the tension. But the last shift is the one that seals it. This is where you slow everything down. No rush, no pressure, no sudden escalation. You look at her, steady, grounded, and you say quietly, "I don't rush what feels real." That's it. Simple, controlled, powerful. Because here's the truth most men miss. Desire grows strongest in delayed gratification. When she feels that you're not trying to grab the moment, but savor it, her body responds differently. Most men speed things up because they're afraid the opportunity will disappear. But the man who turns her on? He's not afraid of time. When you say, "I don't rush what feels real," you communicate three things at once. You feel the connection. You're confident enough not to chase it. And you're selective about what you invest in. That combination is magnetic. Imagine you're sitting close. There's silence. The air feels heavier now, not awkward, but charged. She looks at you for a second longer than usual. Instead of breaking the tension, you hold it. You don't reach immediately. You don't overtalk. You just stay present. And then you add one final layer. "I like the way this is unfolding." That line does something subtle. It frames the moment as a shared experience, not something you're trying to take, but something you're building together. And when a woman feels like she's part of something unfolding naturally, her guard drops completely. Because here's the psychological truth. Women are turned on by emotional leadership combined with restraint. Not aggression, not neediness, not performance. Restraint. The ability to feel intensity and not lose control. When you remain calm in a moment that feels electric, you become the stable force in the dynamic. And stability in the presence of tension? That creates trust. Trust creates surrender, not submission, but emotional surrender, the willingness to lean in. This is why your tone matters more than the words. Low, slow, certain, no nervous laughter, no over-explaining, just grounded presence. Because what truly turns her on isn't the sentence itself, it's the man saying it. A man who observes without judgment, speaks without hesitation, and holds tension without fear. And here's the final truth. If she feels emotionally safe, emotionally seen, emotionally understood, and emotionally led. Her body follows naturally. You don't have to force chemistry. You cultivate it. You don't chase desire. You create the conditions for it to rise on its own. So remember this. Say things that reveal her softness. Name the connection without asking for permission. And move slowly enough that she feels the depth of the moment. Because when a woman feels understood and desired at the same time, she won't need you to say anything else. The silence between you will say it for you. And that's when you know you didn't just turn her on, you connected. If this shifted your perspective, make sure you're subscribed to Female Code Unlocked. Because the deeper you understand female psychology, the more effortless your presence becomes. And in the end, presence is power.